Both teams are undefeated this evening. Of course, Sydney United sitting high on top of the table and hoping to make it 4 wins from 4 matches this evening. Thank you so much for your attendance this evening, ladies and gentlemen. Don't forget to visit the King Tom Club after the game as well. The lineups for this afternoon's fixture. Number 2 for Manly is Luka Krijan. Number 4 is Jesse Priz. Number 5, Aaron O'Driscoll. 6, Saxon Hillier. 10, Darcy Burgess. 11, Ayumu Kimura. 13, William McCreary. 15, Max Martinello. 18, Luke Newmoff. 19, Kay Evans. And number 99, Mackenzie Siron. On the bench for Manly this evening, number 3, Matthew O'Donoghue. 7, Stephen de Robillard. 8, Kakeru Onu. 9, Benjamin Coop. 12, Mitchell Seaman. 14, Max Walker. And number 21, Harry Turner. For the home team this evening, ladies and gentlemen, Sydney United. In goal, number 1 is Adam Pavlicic. Number 3 and captain is Bailey Rule. Number 6 is Dylan Rose. Number 8 is Tomoki Wada. 9, Carl Cementi. 10, Carlos de Oliveira. 12, Gabriel Tillo. 14, Liam McGinn. 16, Anthony Krielich. 17, Michael Glassick. 23, Mason Wells. And on the bench this evening for Sydney United is number 2, Max Barato. 5, Anthony Tomilich. 15, Adrian Knez. 19, Michael Krislovich. 22, Nicholas Patagina. 41, Adrian Jamie Buzina. And number 44, Barakoko. Let's go for 4 in a row, ladies and gentlemen, this evening.
evening, everybody. A rare treat to kick off round 4 of the NPL New South Wales men's competition. Friday night football from Edenza Park. Early season league leaders, Sydney United 58, hosting surprise packets, Manly United. The hosts tonight, one of 2 teams to have a 100% record through their first 3 matches. Alongside neighbours Marconi, it hasn't been without suspense, but it's been a strong response to the critics after a disappointing Australian Championship campaign late in 2025. With Miro Vlastelica restored as coach, a certain calm and know-how has been taken up by the team in his image. Their opposition tonight's a trickier test than some expected at the start of the year. Squad turnover, a new head coach. Plenty had predicted a rocky start, but last week's draw with reigning premiers Althea Leichhardt at home proved the Northern Beaches side could well be finals contenders come season's end. Good start, so few changes to both teams. United's unchanged whatsoever from the 3-2 win against Western Sydney Wanderers a week ago. It was a performance Miro Vlastelica described as ugly. But although there's been scares and shocks, Sydney United have been perfect when the points have been banked. Manly United just one change. Will McCreary restored up front after Jasper Chipman's red card last week against Althea Leichhardt has ruled him out. Darcy Burgess will slide back into midfield with McCreary leading the line. Final checks just being conducted. Maggie Price is making a rare appearance in this competition now, a veteran of many seasons in the A-League Women's. Matt Staples is our central official, and he gets us underway. One of the combatants may well have their unbeaten start to the season consigned to history here this evening. But it's an early season top 6 tussle. 10 years since Sydney United were premiers of this state. Perhaps that wait is closer to ending than we thought. Can Manly spring another surprise tonight and dull that proclamation? The next 90 minutes hold the answers. It's been a rebuild in totality, but a little bit of regeneration amongst Miro Vlastelica's squad this year. Missing their heartbeat and captain, his son Adrian, again tonight after his red card here against UNSW a couple of weeks ago. Serving the 3rd of a 3-game suspension. There's been some goal concessions in his absence, but yet to be defeated or even held to a draw. And pressing high up the field early, Wada was looking for an option inside him. Ball swept away by Luca Crisan. Well, you see the ball take a interesting bounce off the turf. It spun like a Shane Warne leg spinner. Glassick able to control. Krilic, one of those brought into the starting 11 under Vlastelica, who's been one of their outstanding charges over the first 3 games. Ball movement crisp and clean, and the crowds are starting to filter back into the Sydney United Sports Centre after it looked very much as though they deserted the team in November. They're never far away from a return to this old place. Some of the football here at different times last year was dramatic and spectacular. A cup tie against Sydney Olympic that went all the way to penalty kicks springs to mind. Vlastelica gets tired of the compliment, but United's record in knockout football has been so good over the past 5 seasons. Qualifiers for the round of 32 of the Australia Cup, more than any other team from outside the A-Leagues. Finalists in 3 of the last 4 Waratah Cups. Winners of a dramatic grand final in league football back in 2020 against Rockdale Illendon down the road from here. It's a squad that is building towards being able to match those heady heights. Early season indeed, and Vlastelica himself described the performance last weekend against Western Sydney Wanderers as ugly. It's a little bit of a coming together between Rule and Manly United's left winger, Ayumu Kimura, who's overzealous rather than outwardly malicious. But it's the hosts who've started on the front foot here. So Evans goes in aggressively. Just walked past us, so I'll give her a mention. Long-time Manly team manager, Ada Rigoni, celebrating a birthday today. Here's Tomoki Wada on the edge of the box, getting the first shot of the evening's action away. Half an appeal from Carlos de Oliveira for a Sydney United corner. It wasn't forthcoming. Classic filling in again at centre half alongside McGing tonight in Vlastelica's absence. Winning commandingly. Jesse Pires, now the club captain, to the departures of some more senior figures over the last couple of years. Most recently, Alan Aganovic, well, those two were similarly aged. Classic for Wells, and now Krilic. This is the sort of football that has brought Sydney United a lot of acclaim in the early season. Krilic's cross didn't match the quality of his run down the left. Low points of the Australian Championship campaign came here on a Friday night against West Sapia, as they were during that campaign. Disappointing performance, saw them beaten on the home turf. Team that had been ravaged by injury. This team restored to full strength and full of young startlets like Gabriel Tillo. He has the ball at his feet and is running at Martinello and running well past him. Tillo into the area. Good cross for Wada, who opens the scoring. It's been beautiful and brutal from Sydney United in the opening 6 minutes. And Tomoki Wada opens the scoring, his second goal in 4 games of league football for Sydney United. What a way to start.
Goal for Sydney United, scored by number 8, Tomoki Wada.
It wasn't a finish you'll find in any coaching manual, but he just shifted his weight and steered the ball with his thigh past Mackenzie Siron into the back of Manly's net. And just like that, the hosts lead. Well, they've had some talented Japanese imports at this ground over the past decade or so. Matase Kaneko a couple of years ago. But Wada looks the quality of any of them. Yuri Kawaguchi here for a couple of years. Wada, who actually played against Sydney United. I mentioned that championship win back in 2020. He was part of Rockdale Illendon's team that day. Down the road from here. Scoring in red, white and blue. Just giving them a bit more attacking bite than they showed at different stages across last season. The question of where the goals would come from for Sydney United, they've shared them around. We've got some defending to do here as Martinello delivers, O'Driscoll flies. Neuenhoff couldn't block the ball from being cleared. Good recovering challenge from Kai Evans. Here's Burgess, who's been in fine form to start the season. O'Driscoll's header might fall for Neuenhoff. Half an appeal from some Manly United players for a handball, but Pavlicic is away, keeping the ball from going behind for a corner. If it did strike the arm of McGing, it was tucked right into his side. No way, I don't think the referee could argue it was an unnatural position. It's been a fast start and it's all been in favour of the hosts. Sydney United unrelenting, uncompromising in their press to win the ball back, and then incisive with it. Classic just allowed to stride into midfield and play in Wells. Wide for Krilic. Wells again, who was one of those missing during the championship campaign, top scorer with 10 for Ante Juric last season. Rule for De Oliveira. This is gorgeous football from Sydney United, and Wada just not able to find the final incisive pass for Kyle Chimenti. Martinello concedes the throw. The thought was that Chimenti would shoulder a fair bit of the attacking responsibility now that Patrick Anselmi has departed the club permanently. But it's been those around him, and particularly Michael Krislovic, who on Sydney United's first game here on the opening day came off the bench to score a hat-trick against UNSW. He's added another since then. Name so synonymous with this Sydney United club. Still being made to earn his place. It's Krilic and Wada ask questions of this Manly United defence, so Driscoll's header clear. All Evans can do is ward off another Sydney United raid. Krilic. Nice little 1-2. He was looking to get on the end of a return ball. Just needs to get his foot on it and push Manly United up the other end of the field. They absorbed a lot of pressure early last weekend against RPL Leichhardt at Cromer. Were able to do that. Wells for Krilic. Rose. Gorgeous footwork from the Sydney FC Academy graduate. Couldn't find the killer ball, but Sydney United are looking in ominous mood here. Their fans buoyed by their start to the game and the season at large. There's a thought that last season Manly United this year are exactly the sort of team that would give them trouble, sitting deep defensively, being disciplined, numbers behind the ball. They've managed to cut through that within the space of 6 minutes tonight. Just put them in a very commanding position. Manly did come from behind last weekend to force the 2-2 draw with Apia. It looked for a time as though they were the favourites to win that game. For buckling for Max Court's equaliser late on. For all the experience that has characterised Sydney United down the years, it's been the form of their young players that really has been the story of the season so far. Gabriel Tillo, just 17 years of age, playing on the assist for the opener from Tomoki Wada. Pavlicic, another example of that at the back. It's the first couple of games of the season, but it's still for a start for his junior club last weekend. I'm happy to see all the action well and truly away from him in the early stages. Neuenhoff, a goal scorer last weekend for Manly United, not able to keep that ball in play. Krilic will just take a breath. Hillier. Nice ball for Burgess, who has space through midfield. really for the first time this evening. Kimura. Supporting his Martinello. All too deep for anyone in blue, at least initially, but Gurus will keep the attack alive. His cross deflected, and the visitors will have a corner. Rare Friday night fixture in the league for Sydney United here. Don't see them too often. This is more regular for Manly United, who've the majority of the past 5 or 6 years played their home games on Friday nights. Bit of a taste of their own medicine, having to travel across town this evening. Pavlicic diving out to punch from Martinello's corner. Now there might be a chance for Sydney United to get away in transition with Rule and now Tillo. Oh, there's a rush of the heart around this place when he springs free of an opposition defence. Eventually cuts off there, but saw the way he's just had the confidence to knock the ball around his defender, use his pace. He's a young man full of confidence. Wada. Rose. United very much, Sydney United that is, very much in command of the opening 15 minutes. Rose towards Chimenti. Cresan's header half away. Dylan Rose has not given Darcy Burgess an inch so far this evening. Followed him round. So it's been his assigned job, and now Burgess handing out a bit of punishment of his own through the ankles and the Achilles of Carlos de Oliveira. Another one who missed the start of the season. Late to return, but happy to have him back. A little bit less responsibility needing to be shouldered by him this season. The creative abilities of Wada and others around him. Tillo and Wells, it looks a lot more balanced front three. Wada's delivery towards Classic, away by Cresan. McCreary trying to get a free run at the ball for the first time this evening. It's been suffocating stuff from Sydney United. Manly not able to get out of their own half. This has been the case in this fixture. Home teams having a much better record. Manly won here just a couple of years ago, but outside of that, 1 of the last 10 have gone the way of the host. That was a very high challenge from McCreary, and Matt Staples quite right to go straight to his pocket for the yellow card. A couple of words of advice coming from Sydney United players as well. Rose straight back to his feet. But McCreary will have to watch his step, and just getting a word from Vlado Knežević to calm things down. Challenge of frustration as much as anything. Started the opening 2 games of the season for Manly United, Will McCreary, before missing last weekend with a slight knock picked up during a friendly match they played in midweek against a selection of Manly's best Premier League players from the Northern Beaches area. Knežević actually opted to go without a recognised striker in his absence, so returned him straight to that position tonight. McCreary, clever enough to see off Classic and then get away from Rose. Kimura, front position ahead of Rule, but it was brilliantly read. Timed his sliding interception to perfection. bedded in perfectly here, Bailey Rule. Becoming one of the more senior figures around the club now. Certainly one of the longest serving Sydney United players in this squad. Evans being forced back. Careful not to give the ball away. Best he can do. Aaron O'Driscoll has challenged the ball into touch. Nicely done by Rose, and Krilic have favoured this left-hand side in the opening 20 minutes. Sydney United, but funnily enough, the goal came from the opposite flank. It's mainly because of Krilic's influence. He's been so keen to get forward from left full back. Bit of an error there for the first time this evening, and a tug back on the shirt of McCreery just to ensure he didn't make his way any further clear. First time tonight, Manly with a spell of sustained possession. It's taken them almost 20 minutes to get it. Pires. Evans. Crossing position was a big part of the team that won the premiership in the under-20s a year ago, Kai Evans. We have a few starting here tonight, he and Martinello. Particularly. Chipman not available, but was in and out of that team at different stages between his first grade stints. A couple more on the bench in Max Walker and Mitch Seaman tonight. Pavlicic forced to punch Martinello's corner, and we'll do it again. There's a stiff breeze blowing across the Sydney United Sports Centre right in towards Pavlicic's goal, so Martinello gets enough spin on the ball. There's a chance for an Olympico or the like. This one's deeper. Oh, and I tell you what, there was no telling touch there. The covering Sydney United defence has managed to force the ball behind, but Luca Crisan was not too far from being unmarked there. Towering figure, even above O'Driscoll, his defensive partner. Burgess right in front of the Sydney United supporters to deliver this one. Again, it's towards Pavlicic, who punches. Evans stretching for his second touch, and that's allowed well away. Perfectly timed challenge from Jesse Pires. Evans with a rather wild attempt at a cross, just gets a tap on the head of encouragement from his skipper. Rose has played that into a very dangerous position, and Siron had to be alive to the danger. Martinello is finding Gabriel Tillo a handful. He's hardly the first this season. Rose. Burgess tugged off it. Those two are having a nice little running battle. Two of the outstanding performers of the early season for their respective clubs. Burgess, after making the switch a couple of years ago from Sydney Olympic, it's the first time he's not really been fighting for his position in the 11 with a direct opponent. He started half of Man United's games last year. And by far his best goal-scoring return in Royal Blue with 5 goals. His first of the season last weekend from a free kick. He's got a largely frustrated figure in the opening quarter of this game. It's as though there's been a focus from Sydney United in their setup to not allow him any space with the ball when it does reach him. McGing not happy with the ball that was played to him by Pavlicic, and making that very clear. Kimura for the second time has felled rule. Fullbacks are generally not the biggest fan of that sort of thing, and Kimura is booked. There's no doubting his energy and intensity on the press. Ayumu Kimura. It's a rather needless booking, all things considered. Mentioned how Sydney United have recruited very well in the Japanese diaspora here in Australia. Manly United perhaps have had the pick of the bunch over the past 5 years in finding Seiya Kambiyashi. Another challenge goes in. Wada has left Saxon Hillier flat on the deck. And Matt Staples is just taking his time to check on the well-being of Manly United's midfielder. Wada, whose goal separates the two teams early, is followed his countryman into the book less than a minute later. It's 3 yellow cards Matt Staples has seen fit to give inside the first 25 minutes. There have been some late challenges flying in. What has not been a characteristically physical encounter to this point, but bits of sloppy tackling more than anything. McCreary, Kimura and Wada all thoroughly deserving of bookings for loose challenges. Vlasic, who displaced Anthony Tomolich for large portions of last season in what had been affectionately become known as the Tomolich rollout here at Adenza Park, screening in front of the back four, which often included this man, Liam McGing, next to Adrian Vlastelica, slotting back into position he was known for playing when he arrived at the club at centre-half today. Krilic. Wells, not his favoured right foot, but it was a solid enough strike. Never really worried Mackenzie Sirot. Tomolich again part of a very healthy bench. You mentioned Michael Krislovic already today, already 4 goals this campaign. Early leader of the Golden Boot race. It's not started a game yet this season for Miro Vlastelica. It's been a very impressive return in terms of goal output. Tomolich is there, and Farakoko, who was, funnily enough, Manly United's top scorer a year ago. Found in the back of the net 10 times. It's around a couple of clubs over the past few seasons, Farakoko. It's McCreary. Funnily enough, just finishing that point on Kirko, it was one who couldn't find his way into Manly United starting 11 for long stretches of last season. Krilic has got that long throw in his locker into the opposition penalty area. This time he uses it to go up the line. Krilic for the first time misplacing a pass, but taken down by Saxon Hillier, who's booked. A third Manly United yellow card inside the first half hour. Not sure whether that was on a bit of a get even for Hillier. Was on the end of Wada's challenge about 5 minutes ago. Rose's big switch, and Martinello electing to try and see it behind, stolen upon by Tillo. It's indirectly kept the attack alive. Rose Krilich. Wells drawing the challenge from Perez, and another free kick blown against Manly United. Been fair play winners a couple of years previously over the past few seasons. Not doing that reputation any good this evening. De Oliveira changing the angle from the free kick from Wada. Might fall for Tillo. Oh, and Chimenti, will he be Johnny on the spot? He was offside in any case. Pat Talecki, the assistant on the far side tonight, flagging that. It's a game that's rather floated along towards the half-hour mark. Smokey Wada's opener came after just 6 minutes. Period that Sydney United had thoroughly dominated. Manly United slow out of the blocks in their cross-town Friday night trip. Sydney United, amongst home comforts, have looked more at the races than really the start of any of their 3 games so far this season. They've been slow starters. Trailed here twice on the opening day against NSW. Managed to run away with that game. A man sent off against Sutherland as well. Managed to find a winner, having had the scores level at 1-1 that day. And then leading all the way against the Western Sydney Wanderers last weekend here, but far from convincing. Still they sit top on the live ladder. And the United win the early throw. Tick past half an hour. We do have one other live game in the NPL New South Wales men's this evening. Played between Sydney FC and Marconi, and it's happy news for Sydney United supporters. The Sky Blues have taken the lead there. Both those results held with an hour of play in both left to go. And Sydney United would be top at the end of the weekend, never mind tonight alone. It's been the first time in a few years we've said that. Here is going through the back of Wells. He was trying to play the ball, but De Oliveira is none too pleased with the tackle. And I think this is a build-up of what's transpired over the opening 30 minutes of this game, where Manly United had not been afraid to leave a foot in. United are being rewarded in terms of set pieces around Manly United's penalty area, but continuing to ask for further retribution. Curling ball from De Oliveira was almost right on the spot. Ciron read it beautifully. Not too many blue shirts in the landing area of that football from Mackenzie Ciron's boot, but next place pass from McGing of all people. Only have had more possession like this in the last 5 or 10 minutes than they did in the opening 20. Starting to work their way into the match a little. Similar pattern against Apia last weekend. Well, very much on the back foot. The difference was they hadn't conceded so early. There might be a chance for Sydney United to double their money with Mason Wells. Slides the ball under Ciron. Quick turnover forced, and their top scorer from a year ago
Goal for Sydney United.
is on the score sheet here on Friday night.
Mason Wells.
A first of 2026.
Lead Manly 0.
Well, one he's had to work hard for. He's had his injury issues towards the end of last year, Mason Wells. They're so much better for having him. A really tidy finish after being played through by Chimenti, who lends a hand as well. It's all swimming in the right direction for Sydney United. and their attacking quartet, who are right at the races. Tillo to Wada for the first, Chimenti to Wells for the second. All four involved to a very happy result and a very comfortable situation in the game for Miro Vlastolitz's team. And Perez again is up Wells' backside and not able to take the ball off him squarely, or fairly and squarely I should say. And that's exactly the point that Liam McGing is making to the referee. It's been a function of Manly United barely being able to get their foot on the ball at different times. Defensive doggedness has been required, and at times that has turned into a little bit of ill discipline. Manly United have surprised some of their early opposition this season. Sydney United determined that they wouldn't be another victim of that. Sprung out to the blocks tonight and looking for a third. Krilic. Oh, gorgeous turn from Wells, who nearly made it three. Very good save from Siron. And for the two goals this evening, that first touch from Mason Wells might be the highlight of the first half. It's not oft you see quality like that in such spades. But it almost broke the game wide open. Still it might indirectly from the corner. Manly United have Mackenzie Siron to thank for the fact that they haven't fallen further behind, and this game is becoming rather ill-tempered. Pushing and shoving around the Manly United goalkeeper to the point where Siron was on the ground. Liam McGing was having very firm words with Luca Crisan amongst all of that. McGing's just got to be a little careful himself. He's not had the best disciplinary records over the past few seasons. Last thing Miro Vlastolic would want is to lose another centre-half through unnecessary means. Love a third goal though, as O'Driscoll springs out to half clear the danger around Manly United's net. De Oliveira. Rules ball in. It's another dangerous one, and Siron spilled it. Can they finish it off, Sydney United? Not quite. Tussling and toiling for the football. McGing again involved. Siron trying to make the jump above him to begin with, and then all collapsed around him with Crisan. Those two had been at each other not a moment before, and Crisan sportingly over to check on the well-being of McGing. It was all very messy, but proper footballing action right around the penalty spot. McGing was brave in the initial contest. And he and Crisan now share a handshake, so all is forgiven for now. Siron's receiving some pretty stern attention in his own goal area as well at the moment. Matt Staples has had a bit to control in this first half. He's going to the pocket for cards, and I think quite rightly, in the opening half hour or so. He's managed to work his way through the preceding 7 or so with just his personality, but it's a game that is just threatening to boil over. And because of that, Sydney United will be even gladder to hold the 2-goal advantage that they do. Here's Hillier. Manly tried to tear apart a now very well set Sydney United defence. This has been the area that they've needed to improve. Particularly last weekend, they looked a little bit loose, protecting the lead that they'd given themselves against the Wanderers. 9 goals already coming into tonight. They've added another 2, so they're the first in 2025 to hit double figures in terms of goals scored. Played some thrilling football. Just got to make sure they slow the heart rates as this game gets later and later. Not even reached the half-time break yet. Krizan. Gorgeous switch of play for Jesse Perez. Evans. Clever enough to win the throw off Anthony Krilic. O'Driscoll. United are going to have to be sharp in this area. They have been on this occasion. Neuenhoff happy to stride forward with the football, unopposed. Shrugs off Rose's initial effort to try and challenge. Martinello blasts it into Rule, and now Tillo might be away. Green grass and young legs. Face to face with Krizan. Tillo. Adsiron diving away to his left. He is a thriller minute, this footballer. Saw the ball break for him, and you knew it was going to end with a shot on goal down the other end. Left Martinello and Kimura, who was actually doing the initial chasing, in his wake. Krizan did well to just slow his momentum slightly. But you could argue the 2-0 scoreline in favour of Sydney United actually flatters Manly a little bit on the evidence of the opening 40 minutes. It has been a one-sided contest. The league leaders showing they have earned that title by rights with their early season form here again tonight. Mentioned it off the top of the broadcast. It's 10 years since Sydney United last finished top of the home and away table at the end of a New South Wales men's season. There's been plenty of silverware in the interim, in the form of Waratah Cups and a couple of grand finals. That first past the post trophy just holds something a little near and dear to this team, whose only silverware in the NSL actually came as premiers. Never won a National Soccer League grand final. It's a club that once prided itself on being the best over the course of an entire season, not just in the big games. I'm sure that's been part of the message that Miro Vlastolica has been trying to push since his return in the summer. The message is getting through. Krizan trying to turn the tide for Manly United. Kimura, 8 goals for Gungahlin down in the capital NPL last season. Not able to fire that one through the Sydney United defence. Gorgeous sliding challenge from De Oliveira, and Krilic, who's had a fine start to this game, is away again. Wells scored the host's second goal. He's linked up with Krilic almost exclusively down the left. Not able to find the finishing touch there, but Sydney United have been a joy to watch so far this evening. More of the same, please, will be the demands at half-time, no doubt, from the coaching staff and from the supporters who'll always let their feelings be known at this ground. Had plenty to sing about. Krilic. Ball's playing as a hold-up for just a moment, and Krizan volleys clear. Wells just wanted that one more. Stuck his head into a dangerous area, and Sydney United flipped the ball out to the right. Tillo. 3 Manly United players over to cover this time. Wada as Rule overlaps. Can he find the telling pass? Looking to link up with Wada. Kimura lending a hand defensively. It's all hands on deck for Manly United at the moment. Eventually swept away by Kai Evans. but there'll be another raid or two on their goal before half-time, no doubt. Vladimir Knežević, who's had a couple of little challenges since taking over the reins at the start of the year. He's not quite been faced with a situation like this in charge of Manly United just yet. He's got to be careful. He laid a shoulder in on Vlasic after the ball had gone there, considering he'd already been booked, and Matt Staples says that's the free kick he's blown. Good piece of refereeing. From a Manly United perspective, we went through Sydney United's very strong bench this evening. Earlier in the first half. And they've got some firepower. Stefan de Robillard, a familiar face around these parts. Kakeru Ono's looked very bright in his couple of stints off the bench. Particularly impressive against Apia last weekend as De Oliveira has a crack. Not his best efforts. Capable of plenty better. Such is the good feeling around Edensor Park tonight that there's a couple having just a cheeky word or two with one of the fan favourites, was voted the Fans Player of the Year in 2025. Wells got a magic left foot and he can strike a ball, certainly. That was rather easily fielded by Seron. 2 minutes indicated to be added on at the end of this very entertaining first half, particularly if you're a Sydney United 58 supporter. Wada. Just flitting about. He's such a cool, calm footballer, Tomoki Wada. He's returned to Australia via the Singapore Premier League, where he was last sighted with Tan Yong. It's rather less successful over there. They finished bottom last season in the Singapore Premier League. And Will McCreary is about to be sent off here at straight. Had already been booked and was getting frustrated, and is given a fair send-off as well by the Sydney United players, who were less than impressed with a couple of challenges he'd put in, and now he's been dismissed without even the need for a second booking. Frustrated, and a moment's loss of concentration and submission to one of those intrusive thoughts has just worsened Manly United's situation slightly more. Right in front of the fourth official and the assistant on this near side, Maggie Smith. Between them, the refereeing crew took very little time to decide what the correct outcome was. Brain snap from one of Vladimir Knezevic's young players. And the improbable has now become the nigh on impossible for the visitors. So Jesse Perez, when that occurred, was getting set to take a throw. The ball has disappeared in the fracas. There's a couple of disinterested looking ball boys down the far side who are now passing the ball across. Because the ball was out to play, Manly United will still get to take the throw in. But Jesse Perez will have one less target. Right in the shadows of half-time as well, there would have been an opportunity for Vladimir Knežević to take his team in and regroup and reset. Perhaps tweak a few things. There's going to have to be wholesale changes and a complete restructure. They've been outplayed, and now they've been outthought as well Just a little bit more wherewithal and experience than Naus. Despite a refreshed, youthful look, there is a street smartness that comes with wearing a Sydney United shirt, as well as an expectation of the football that should be played. And that was the highlight of the opening half hour. Tomoki Wada opening the scoring after just 6 minutes before Mason Wells added his first goal of the league season, sliding the ball under Mackenzie Siron, who was called into action a couple more times before the break. The late red card to Will McCreary has rather soured things for the visitors further. But it's all smiles for Sydney United. They head down the tunnel, leading this game by 2-0. Second half about to get underway here in round 4. Friday night football between Sydney United 58 and their visitors Manly United. 2 goals separating the two teams. Tamoki Wada and Mason Wells the scorers. Will McCreary's late red card has made things just that bit more difficult for Manly United. They've already been on the back foot for the majority of the opening 45 minutes. The team on top of the table look like cementing their position there after 4 games. No changes from Flodor Knežević at half-time. And despite that late red card, this is not a dissimilar setup to the one he started with against Apia a week ago. No recognised striker. Darcy Burgess shouldering a lot of that responsibility, although Ben Coop is away warming up behind the goal that Manly are attacking with this set piece, and there's a chance as Martinello hooks the ball back on target. The first save of the night for Adam Pavlicic. It's been largely untroubled, just to a sweeper behind his defence. It's called into a first moment of worry. Vlastelica might not mind that, just to shake his team back into life. Quite impeccable in the first half. Started playing some very sharp passing football. Solidified that with the second goal, and then happy to concede a little more possession. Ease off in their press a little. Got more defending to do here. Kimura's sprung past Bailey Rule, really for the first time tonight, but not able to put the ball across into a dangerous position. The moment passes. I wonder if Manly were to get back into this game, whether they just needed an early goal to come from a situation like that. Mentioned just before half-time, Coop to Robelards. 2 more experienced players in reserve for Knežević. He's also got young Max Walker, Mitch Seaman there, and Kakeru Ono, who's been very impressive, another of Manly's Japanese imports. Burgess striding away, held up by Rose. Legally, said Matt Staples to Burgess's distaste. Here's Wada. Got it all started tonight. Curling ball over the top. Antillo's timed his run. He's got an option square. Good piece of defending from Krishan. And away by Martinello. Chimenti still searching for his first goal back in Sydney United colours. It's a very successful period at the club towards the end of the 2010s, start of the 2020s. Finally, Sydney United able to put their foot on the ball for the first time in this second half. Healthy crowd have gathered up on the hill as well as up here in the Bokkers stands. Rule for Tillo. He's come back for Bailey Rule. Well, he scored a goal almost from that very spot a couple of years ago. It's labelled one of the goals of the 2024 season. It's far from a regular goal scorer, Bailey Rule. Sister Charlie's just been called up for the Matildas for the upcoming Women's Asian Cup. Bailey, a fine fullback in his own right. Looking to add a goal-scoring touch. Played over 40 games in his first campaign at the club as Sydney United went deep in both the Australia and Waratah Cups. Has been there once. Wada. Wells has continued his run on his less favoured right, so lays it off for Tillo. Sharp strike. Ball came at him quickly. Not able to steer his effort on target though. Suron's been under siege. Wants a winner of a grand final at League One level with St George City at this ground. All the way back in 2022, actually the final grand final that was played in the League One men's. relegation promotion playoff has taken over since, to great acclaim. De Oliveira. Neuenhoff takes it off his toe and Kimura turns out of trouble. Just with a bit of a heavy touch back into traffic, but gorgeous measured pass from Martinello. Releases Neuenhoff. Making recovering gamely and effectively. Ian Classic have looked solid alongside one another tonight. Not asked too many questions by the visiting Manly United attack. Nonetheless, been disciplined and determined in front of Pavlicic. He's playing a little game between themselves here. Now further upfield to Dylan Rose. Classic. They've just pegged Manly United further and further back towards their own 18-yard box. Krilic overlapping. Crossing hasn't been the most accurate tonight. That was closer to being on the money. It forces Martinello to head behind. The hosts have another corner. Manly United coming into this game, they were actually unbeaten in their last 5. Had a good run towards the end of last season, which dragged them right out of any sort of relegation picture. So he finished that they only scored 1 goal less than Sydney United last season, and problem was down the other end where they weren't as consistent defensively as they would have liked. More defending to do here. Perez playing above his height as ever. Getting the ball away from Krilic, but there are more Sydney United numbers back there. Second game of their 4, which has featured a red card for Sydney United so far this season. Thankfully, their perspective in this case, it's gone to the opposition. Manly United have had red cards go their way in back-to-back weekends. Jasper Chipman was sent off for a second bookable offence last weekend. Wells dribbling the ball along the byline, thumping the ball into Perez. Sydney United will have another corner. Racking up that statistic as much as any other. And the Sydney United supporters behind that corner of the goal, giving a big cheer to Mokiwada. Familiar face, and maybe quickly a cult hero as another group gather around Siron. And Staples, our referee, blowing the whistle before the ball had even really made its way into a dangerous position. Ended up flying over the Manly United crossbar. Goal kick, free kick, it's all the same really. So we're expecting the double change. Here it comes. Stefan de Robillard, former Sydney United player. There'll be too many aggressive boozers. The players struggled to break into the first team over his time here. It's brought on for Saxon Hillier. Ben Coop making his way onto the pitch as well. A little rejig in formation. Coop will play as the furthest forward. Caution's going to be thrown to the wind from a Manly perspective here. Neuenhoff, no doubt, entrusted with doing a lot of running in the absence of his midfield partner now. Burgess sitting just behind the attacking trident.
Coming on for Manly was number 9, Benjamin Coop.
Burgess not able to, or Perez rather, not able to keep the ball in play. The frustration from Vlado Kinezovic back towards his bench.
Also number 7 came on Stefan de Robillard.
Wells with a switch. Tillo with his loosest touch all evening. Turns it over. Martinello, who got his first senior goal more than 4 years after debuting on the opening day for Manly United. Battled back from a pretty major injury. Midway through his second senior campaign. Started every game this season for Vlado Knežević so far. Big part of the Premiership winning 20s team a year ago. Michael Krislovic is stripping off, which is an ominous sign, given his early season goal scoring form. Is Rule. Tillo for Rose. He's looking to measure the return to Bailey Rule. He wasn't too far away from finding his man. Should have mentioned as well that Kai Evans was the other one removed by Vlado Knežević when he made that double switch just a moment ago. Here's Martinello. Ball knocking the ball square for De Oliveira. Wants to see more of the ball now. This is the sort of game he can really take over and dictate the tempo of, the help of the attacking stars ahead of him. Here he is on the ball now, De Oliveira. Wells returning it to Carlos De Oliveira. Ran into the firm figure of Manly's Irish centre-half, Aaron O'Driscoll. Kira's thumping the ball against De Oliveira. This is sort of a return to what we saw in the early stages of the first half, where Manly United now down a player as well, struggling to get out of their own half. Miro Vlastelica is sensing his team could kill this game off once and for all in the ensuing 15 minutes, as long as they keep their concentration at the back. Staples just getting in the middle of things there. Ball's fallen in favour of the hosts. Wells. And look for his second or try to play provider. Taken up by De Oliveira. Oh, and there's a stumble there from Kresan. Bailed out by Martinello. Taken up by Coop for Manly. Ciron forced to clear with his less favoured left. It's effective enough. Coop's become better and better in the air year on year. Been asked to play centrally, started life as a winger. Account of his terrific pace, hamstring injuries have quelled that somewhat, but still finds a way to put himself about and be effective. He's been used more and more off the bench over the last couple of years by first Patrick Zvanswijk and now Vlado Knežević. Kept in reserve for situations like this. Mentioned Kakador Ono. It's just about to make his entrance, along with Mata Donahue as well for Manly United. Be pointing into that unbeaten run for Manly United. Their last win, or last loss I should say, just came down the road from here against the Marconi Stallions a couple of weeks from the end of last season. Pires for Burgess. Coop. On for Kimura. Coop again, wants to get on that right foot, Ben Coop. Curling efforts, easily fielded by Pavlicic. Saw it all the way. We mentioned Krislovic, and Farakoko is going to come on here and hope to just haunt his old side. Rule. Miroslav Stolica will be very content with the game to continue like this for another half hour. His team moving around the tired opposition to add one or two more goals with sharp cutting football like this. Krilic just hasn't provided that quality from crossing positions tonight, as you might expect. He's got a better final ball than he's shown us this evening. Double changes to both teams. O'Donoghue and Ono for Manly United, Krislovic and Coco for Sydney United. And tonight for Max Martinello and Ayumu Kimura. Two like-for-like changes. One Japanese left winger for another. And Mason Wells, who opened the scoring tonight, gets a good hand from the Sydney United supporters. And Carl Chimetti, who laid on the second, still waiting for his first Sydney United goal back in these colours.
Michael Krislovic.
Krislovic, scorer of 4.
And also number 44, Farakoko.
Krislovic came on in similar circumstances to these against UNSW here on the opening day and bagged a hat-trick. The tall task to repeat the trick on cue, but substitutions almost happened in the exact same minute. Ono swinging his right boot at it. Rose uncontested. De Robillard similarly. Either could play it to a teammate. Well intercepted by Newenhoff. It does cover so much ground through the middle of the pitch for Manly. Ono's ball is early. Testing for Glassick, who dealt with it well. Seen it all before. Lovely touch on by Tiller. This has an awareness of exactly where he is on the pitch. It's beyond his years. Presses more and more every time he takes to a football pitch at the moment. Wada's ball through, it's direct. Krislovic couldn't hold his run. Trying to get off the shoulder of O'Driscoll. It's easier said than done. Not a surprise that both Sydney United's goals this evening have come from the winger playing it to a striker, or vice versa. Needed that angle of attack to really break through Manly United's very well set defence. Despite their low finish on the table last year, still only conceded the 46 goals. Stingiest defence in the league when they made it all the way to the grand final back in 2022. Jesse Perez is the only remaining member of that back four. Julie Oates was the star as skipper that year. Now residing up in the Hunter region. Classics ball through. Ono's touch. Took maybe one too many as he looked to feed Tillo there. Can forgive him that. Those two combined for the opening goal in just 6 minutes. Now Burgess is powering away. De Robillard. Is this the chance for Manly United? Can De Robillard come back against his old club? He fires in at Pavlicic. Manages to catch with Coop in close attendance. Had to be sure of things, but time he spent with Sydney FC. He did see a few A-League appearances, one with the Central Coast Mariners as well. That's moved around a bit. His brother Anthony is a very strong goalkeeper himself. He was at Bayern Munich. It's part of their youngsters until very recently. Rose gives Burgess a shove. Brings him down just inside the centre circle. It's just recently moved up to nation of their heritage in Croatia, playing his football now. Adam himself had trials overseas after a very impressive under-17s World Cup with the young Socceroos in Strasbourg and at Roma. There's a heavy collision there between O'Donoghue, one of the Sydney United players, went down very heavily. Matt Staples just stopping play so that Diana Kardaric can see to the stricken Sydney United player. Nothing untowards. To the point, I think this will restart with a drop ball rather than a free kick to either side. Still 1-0 out at the Illingdon Sports Centre between Sydney FC and Marconi. That result holds. It'll be a very happy night indeed for Sydney United supporters. See them 3 points clear of their old rivals in the very early stages of this season. History in that rivalry. So the highest crowds that's ever watched the Sydney United home game at this ground came back in 1997. The original Sydney derby. Western Sydney derby, certainly. Feel like occasions, those games. They're not scheduled to meet till round 10 this season. Have a look at where that could fall in terms of deciding the location of silverware. Here's a return fixture will be played in round 25. Everybody will be right amongst it then. A light challenge on Neuenhoff, not spotted by Matt Staples. Perhaps he did, and the Oliveira challenge fairly. Quarter of this game left to play. Both goals coming before the break through Tomoki Wada and Mason Wells. Tillo's trying to add a third here. Good challenge from Trizan. Still the attack alive though with a 17-year-old. Rule darting inside his defender now. And O'Driscoll there to cover in front of his goalkeeper. O'Donoghue's clearance, one of panic rather than precision. Krilic. A chance for Coco here, who's stolen a march. Couldn't find the right option. His first chance to really sting Manly United since coming on. Couldn't take his moment. Tillo with a touch. Throwing goes Manly's way. Looking a little frustrated there that he didn't have more support forwards. It's been difficult for Manly, a man down, but haven't exactly been gung-ho about the way they've attacked the second half of this game. Krisan, well-timed challenge on Wada. Wada left a bit of a sting on the Japanese midfielder as well. Mizono. Almost hand in hand with Rule, but strong enough to see off the challenge and to pick out to Robillard. Beautifully timed challenge from McGing to make sure the strike travelled no more than a metre. Doing a battle that would have happened in training a few times last season, no doubt. Krisan striding into midfield. And a poor turnover. This could leave Manly United open. Beautifully read by Neuenhoff. Defensive nous that goes with the name, perhaps. Father Cullum, of course, is playing his trade in Scotland at the moment. Coming through a couple of A-League academy systems. Luke was in a couple of them as well over the past couple of seasons. Just recently up with Brisbane in Queensland. So it's gone up with another Manly United junior and Jacob Brissett, who has managed to break into the first team up there. Neuenhoff back at his junior club and doing impressive things at midfield. Scored his first senior goal for them last weekend against Apia Leichhardt. It's the telling one in a 2-2 draw. Haven't quite had the same luck tonight. Wada. This game is being played to his pace at the moment. Rule, Tillo, Sydney United at their best here. Tillo, three converge upon him to block the shot. Danger evident to every Manly United defender out there. Oh no, just bustling through a couple of players. He's got a physicality to him that you don't always associate with the Japanese imports. Koko has a chance to put the foot down the other way. Lays it off for Krislovic. Happy to go to the byline, and I tell you what, he just needed somebody to gamble there, and it might well have been 3-0. Good bit of hold-up play from Krislovic. Making his way wide. And just putting the ball into an area. He's asking for a finish that never arrived. A couple of moments like that for both teams in this second half. More of them going Sydney United's way, but Manly United have had one or two as well, particularly early in the half. Sydney United were a little bit casual coming out of the break. That attitude has certainly shifted as the second half has worn on. Just getting a couple of decisions now, the visitors, and look to have the wind between their sails. It's about the time where they found their equaliser against Apia a week ago. It's just that bit more remarkable if they could do it away from home this week. Burgess on the right, and there's a couple of appeals for a handball. Matt Staples is happy enough to award a corner. Got some promising attacks building though. Burgess with plenty to target in the middle. Swinging away from Pavlicic, near post Coop. And Coop again! Ball just falling to him. It's a sort of effort he'd expect better of himself from. At least putting the ball on target from that range. Came to him quickly, it was a snapshot. Those are the kind of half chances Manly United have needed to take with both hands this evening. Not quite managed it. Sydney United with 15 minutes to see out. Nick Protezina to make his way onto the field as well. He was a prolific goal scorer down in ACT football a year ago. Brother of Michael, who's moved on to Macarthur after a breakout season here at Adenza Park a year ago. Both impressive features in the Australian Championship, as was this young man Tillo, this time dispossessed by the experience of Darcy Burgess. Ono and Coop interchanging passes. Rose happy to halt the attack by any means necessary. Well, Miro Vlastelica made the comment last week that he thought the performance against the Western Sydney Wanderers of his team, despite the victory, was ugly. Not wanting to put words in his mouth. Comfortable is the word I'd use to describe this performance with 15 minutes to go. Never looked troubled, really, tonight, Sydney United. It's been a commanding performance from the first whistle to this stage where we just have the 15 minutes to play. A little bit of sloppiness like that, just sneaking in every now and then, though. Perhaps Protejina can help to tidy that up a little. A hand will be afforded to Tomokiwara. Open the scoring after just 6 minutes tonight.
Coming off for City United's goal scorer, number 8.
With the inside of his left thigh.
And he is being replaced by number 22, Nicholas Protejina.
Might be misremembering that. Might have been his right. Either way, it was his upper leg that steered the ball home. His second goal in Sydney United colours already this season. Got this crowd singing on the right notes and just sort of followed that along for the remainder of the game so far. It's when you sense Sydney United are in command. It's always a team that prefer to play with the football. At times over the last few seasons have had trouble breaking down well-set defences when they visited. If they can build the Sydney United Sports Centre back into the fortress it once was, they are going to be very difficult to stop this season. The depth of talent that Miro Vlastelica has assembled, and there were many who would have seen commentators saying that in November of last year. That is the case. Core of a very experienced and settled sides, complemented by some exciting youngsters like Farah Koko. Rule one of the former, Tillo one of the latter. Into the box, he's sold O'Donoghue, blocked by Krizan. And again, the desperate dive of Darcy Burgess, blocking the strike of his opposite number, Carlos de Oliveira. Sydney United in command, though. Tillo, Koko, goes for goal himself. It wasn't a bad strike either, always rising. And Mackenzie Siron's heart in his mouth for just a moment again. In terms of saves he's had to make, Mackenzie Siron, it's actually been a quieter second half. Sounds funny to say, given he's only had 9 in front of him. After the red card to Will McCreary right on half-time. It did look as though it put paid to any real chance of a Manly United comeback in this second half. It's been a typically low-scoring fixture. Only got one goal in the entirety of the two games between these two last year. Goal coming from Sydney United at this ground. Mason Wells has taken a liking to playing against Manly United. Manly's last win against Sydney United came here just a couple of years ago. 2 goals from Aganovic and Miguel Balfa late on in the year. The Robillard brought down, and Rose will be disappointed to be booked there. It's a combative midfield. That's not really a booking he'd love to be picking up. Matt Staples, who had the card out flashing around a lot in the first half, has been rather more resistant to show it in the second half. Second booking for Sydney United tonight. Wada, the other, has now been removed. Be a chance for another one of the key members of Manly's under-20 premiership winners from a year ago, when Mitch Seaman enters the field in just a moment. Burgess to deliver first. Not his best cross. Hasn't been as comfortable over the dead ball tonight as he was a week ago. Oh no. Beautifully shaped ball. He and Coop seem to have struck up a bit of an understanding. Been searching for each other more often than not since both have come off the bench. Final substitution for Gniazovic. Mitch Seaman now to enter, and Darcy Burgess not able to find another goal, but still gets small hands from section of Manly United supporters who've gathered under the Boca stand tonight.
Is number 12, Mitchell Seaman.
Seaman, one of the most regular starters for the 20s last year, making the step up. A couple of appearances in first grade over the course of last season. King's header. There's not a lot of recovering defence there for Sydney United. So de Robillard and Coop, and now O'Donoghue can try and put something together. Well broken up by Rose, and Krislovic could be away here. He's timed his run and he's onside. Has he got the pace to get away from O'Driscoll? He's stumbled and fallen as he approached the penalty area, and to his credit, the appeals for a penalty all came from the stands rather than from the player himself. Really had a moment more to sing about. Manly United have showed good character in their second half, haven't dropped their heads. Lovely touch from O'Donoghue. Now Tillo's been called into a defensive position. It's where he started his first grade career. His first called up. Still making an attacking impact even from that position, but has been given increasing licence as his talent has been more and more apparent. Chance for Jesse Pires here. Perhaps a reflection of how rarely he gets into those situations these days. He wasn't able to force a save out of Pavlicic. Starts his career, Jesse Pires, as a central midfielder playing under Adam Griffiths in this Manly United team. Retreated further and further, played bits and pieces as a centre-back for different times over the past couple of seasons, but has found a home as a full-back under both Vanswijk and now Lado Knezovic. Tillo trying to play provider again. Good challenge from Seaman on De Oliveira, who's still fighting in there with Krislovic. Might have gotten each other's way at the end of it all, and Krizan happy to belt the ball out of play. Still Sydney United pushing for a third. Why not? Player advantage. They have really taken full advantage of that over the course of this evening. The way they've controlled this second half with the football. Asked Manly United to cover a lot of ground as a collective, and has now put them in a position where they're looking a little fatigued. Coco into the area. Good defending from Neuenhoff, who hasn't stopped working. Another corner for the hosts. Toward double figures now. De Oliveira is now taking those set-piece responsibilities, giving his side a breather. De Oliveira to deliver. Nice sweeping cross, which still might fall for Coco. Through plenty of bodies, but always steering wide of Ciron's near post. Adrian Kinej is about to make his entrance, and a healthy hand landed to Gabriel Tillo.
Coming off for Sydney United, number 12, Gabriel Tillo.
A goal tonight, but an assist and another very impressive display. Right up to this level, and perhaps beyond it as well. Neuenhoff. Krislovic scrapping and winning the free kick as well. Neuenhoff just getting his legs stuck between the big strikers. Free kick goes the host's way with 5 minutes to see out here. Looked routine, really. Coco. De Oliveira. That cutting pass, well cut out by Krizan. Rose turning himself into trouble. And Coop carrying the ball clear of it for Manly United. Fresh legs of Adrian Knej making the challenge. A player who's been looking for more minutes under a new coaching staff. Trying to put himself about and enter the fray. It's not an easy midfield to break into, the Sydney United trio. De Oliveira winning his spot back after a short stint out at the start of the season, but Rose has bedded in beautifully. Tomoki Wada looks one of the best attacking midfielders in the competition, just as he was when he left. Rules ball in. And it's actually, well, look, the defensive header from Pires where we sat. And Matt Staples, perhaps on the advice of his assistants, has changed that decision. Pretty clear. Firework going off in the car park towards the King Tomislav Club. De Oliveira. Rose. Again for Rule. De Oliveira again, still full of enthusiasm and desire for the contest. This is nice, intricate play. Knej was searching for that ball through to Coco. Might have been the cherry on top. Ceron's release for Coop, well directed, but ultimately not fruitful. McGing for Coco. There's a chance to run it at Donahue. Again, a battle that would have happened on the training ground up at Cromer a fair bit last year. Coco's still come away with the ball. And Crisan, who had his arm tucked right in, never going to be blown. And then Coco with a rather silly challenge, really. There's no danger of an injury to the opposition, but it was reckless. So he becomes the third Sydney United player booked this evening. Manly United looking to give themselves what at this stage you feel would be a consolation, although stranger things have happened in football. Not to be this time. Of Vlastelica rather less than impressed with that sequence of play. Team 2 goals in the ascendancy. Crisan. One last bite of the cherry. Roll of the dice, whichever cliche you'd like for Manly United. Seaman with a pretty wasteful pass. Into Robillard, dumps his old attacking teammate to Robillard to the turf. Fairly heavy contact, and De Oliveira stayed down here. Whether he's wanting a yellow card out, but certainly felt the contact. It wasn't a friendly shove to the turf, that's for sure. Despite the pair's familiarity. Both teams look resigned to the result now. Certainly from a Manly United perspective, having run for 45 minutes with a player less. Coco. Rule. Rose. Knej. Looking for options centrally. Who's a willing mover at this stage of the game? King fires it out to Coco, who might just answer the call. Support with him. Cartesian backwards rather than turning as some had called for him to do. There will be 3 minutes added on at the end of the 90 here. A couple more minutes perhaps to have the crescendo that's been missing from this second half of action. Knez ducking inside on his right foot, and Krislovic was helped over by Krizan. Rather sums up Manly United's evening. Just to recover next weekend for the visitors. Heading away again. Next week down to Barton Park, where they'll take on St George FC. 6:30 kickoff down there. At historic Bestich Street, across the road from the site of the old St George Stadium. Sydney United have got a trip away, but it's only down the road to Moorebank, where they'll take on newly promoted SD Raiders, and will look to go 5 from 5 to start Miro Vlastolica's latest tenure. It's been a successful start, and this probably the most professional and polished performance of the lot. Still room for improvement, but I think that will be a source of encouragement given the results they've been able to churn out over the first month of the season as much as anything else, combined with the fact that Coney still trail by a goal to nil down at the London Sports Centre against Sydney FC. Could be a very happy evening. De Oliveira's shots threatened to just dip underneath the crossbar, but never really got going down there, did it? Michael Glassick barking instructions. He wants this clean sheet. De Oliveira up. Actually offering a hand of apology to Neuenhoff as both came down. Chance for De Oliveira as the ball breaks. And they were lined up there. Both Pratenshina and Krislovic. I think both were offside. It matters little. A first clean sheet of 2026 for Sydney United. They go top of the table by themselves for the first time this season as well. Goals from Tamukiwara, his second in Sydney United colours, and a first of the year for Mason Wells. Enough to see off Manly United. And a big chance to go 5 from 5 next weekend against the Southern Districts Raiders. A run of 5 unbeaten for Manly United snapped. It had been a promising start, but perhaps that next step to the top 6 evidenced by their opposition tonight, who looked composed, professional and polished under Miro Vlastolica again. A happy evening, a rare Friday night at the King Tomislav Club. May go a little later after this result. It's been a pleasure to bring you this round 4 clash from Adenza Park. Alex Montanov signing off where it has finished. Sydney United 58-2, Manly United 0.